And that led me to do a deeper dive into the infrastructure that's used to manage water, right? And
Okay.
uh, at the time, I was like, okay, let me use the tools I have at my disposal. Meaning, I'm a machine learning engineer by trade, and always been fascinated by making things work in the real world.
I'm joined today by Prateek Joshi, who in 2017 founded Plutoshift in Bay Area. Plutoshift is a data platform for the automated monitoring of the physical infrastructure of industrial processes. Prateek, I love what you're doing, and I very much appreciate you as a person. Can you tell me us about what drove you to start Plutoshift?
Yeah, no, first of all, thank you so much for having me on the show. Really excited about the discussion today. Diving a little bit into the evolution, right? So I grew up in a town called Gulbarga in southern India,
Mhm.
and growing up, water was a bit of a luxury. Meaning, you get it someday, and then you wait for a couple of days, and then you got to store the water before until you get it the next time. And so that's how my relationship with water began in my life. And you as growing up, I thought maybe that's kind of how it is, right? Because I didn't really have a chance to go outside, and then realized water is it's an essential resource, and yet many parts of the world, the water is a pretty much a very precious commodity, right?
Mhm.
And that's that that issue stayed with me, right? Obviously, growing up in India, I could have latched on to any number of issues, but this was something that stayed with me. And as I grew up, kind of became, turned into a passion, right? And that led me to do a deeper dive into the infrastructure that's used to manage water, right? And
Okay.
uh, at the time, I was like, okay, let me use the tools I have at my disposal. Meaning, I'm a machine learning engineer by trade, and always been fascinated by making things work in the real world. So thought, okay, as a tool, it has done so much good in the ether, like search engines and e-commerce, but in the physical world, there's been a bit of a gap, and that was a core motivation behind launching Plutoshift, right? To bring AI to the physical world, and water is where we got started.
I'm really inspired by your strong sense of purpose. I mean, I think it's a great example of how by embracing a pro-social cause, one can be better positioned to identify new opportunities through having a more expansive view of the world and see opportunities that others might miss. And the other aspect, I think, is that by embracing of such an authentic purpose, it increases the chances of employees finding true meaning in their work, which can lead to greater intrinsic motivation, more commitment, and better
Yeah,
quality and creativity. So you were born and raised in India, and then I understand came to the States, first to
yeah,
Southern California,
right.
and then to North California.
That is
And
correct.
somewhere along the line, you became a prolific author and reference of artificial intelligence with the goal of making AI accessible. Tell me about that.
Yeah, no, it's the whole writing journey started with I just kind of when I started getting into the weeds, I found these little nuggets of wisdom where you learn by experimentation, right? Because it's not well documented. So that's when I started blogging, and then as I kept doing that, I kind of that turned into a real kind of a passion, because I love breaking down a concept into extremely simple kind of explanation, so that more than others, it's for me, meaning I get to learn it that much better. And then obviously, if I get a chance to pass the wisdom along, great. So that's how it started. And then before you know it, I got contacted to write a book, and now we are at 13. And and really at the heart of it, there's a Japanese concept called ikigai. I'm sure you may have heard of it, but really it helps you discover what you're meant to do in this world, right? What's your core purpose, right? And it's applicable to careers, startups, and life in general. And it's a simple Venn diagram with four intersecting circles, right? One, something you love, right? Something you're good at, something that will get you paid, and something that's good for the world, right? So each circle represents a set of activities. So if you find an activity that sits at the intersection of these four circles, then maybe you said that you'll find your ikigai, right? So, and once you do that, it becomes a lot easier to keep going, right? So, and that's how I feel about AI and all the activities around it, right? It's just be it building Plutoshift, writing books, working on water. It just kind of it really helps if it's in that sweet spot. And when I started talking to customers, I realized that it's a very big need. So that drove everything where we are today.
I mean, that's great. I mean, we share a passion for writing, and I appreciate. Sometimes you have commented some of my essays and stories, and I appreciate that. But come on, 13 books. I mean, someone once said that the three things we should do during our time on Earth are plant a tree, have a child, and write a book. So you certainly are in the upper quartile on the last one. So well done. So let's talk about Plutoshift. You started with this purpose about how to better manage this scarce resource that it's water, but the company evolved. And can you share that evolution and where are you today and how things are going for you at the company?
Yeah, 100%. Our vision is to build a platform that can monitor the world's physical infra, right? We want it to be able to service anybody who wants to do that, be it the local infra or a giant company that wants to keep an eye. And at Plutoshift, we are maniacally focused on productizing this vision, right? And as we discussed, we built a data platform that provides automated monitoring of physical infra. And then diving into it, we commercialized the product in late 2019, right? So the first couple of years were just experimentation, like iterations, talking to customers, trying to see what form or what shape of the product actually going to serve a purpose for these companies. And then once we commercialized it, and then it kind of that iteration clicked, and we signed up Fortune 500 customers. In the last 12 months, we've grown by 5x, and a big part of that has been our discipline and focus and discipline around driving value to our customers. Meaning, why should they invest $1 in Plutoshift? What are they getting back, right? And so, for the record, any customer who has spent 6 months with us, they've stayed with us. So clearly, the point was to figure out it's not just a tool, but how do we create business value, and then how do we unlock, how do we become part of how our customers operate? So that's been a core mantra as we have built this company. And the good thing is the target market, the size of the target market is huge, because over the last 5 to 7 years, in fact, a decade, people have installed data collection systems, right? The sensors have become very low cost. Data collection systems are, the connectivity is great. The installation processes are smooth. Cloud data warehouses have become the norm. So all of these secular trends really helped us capitalize on this market. And the good thing is the size of the market is growing because more companies are embracing data collection, mostly because it's nice, clean, fast, easy, right? So that really helps us kind of drive in that direction and make sure we can do even more for our customers.
I'm curious to understand how COVID-19 impacted your industrial customers and market, especially how customers coped with keeping production going with all the physical distancing restrictions and the supply chain disruptions in many sectors. So any key learnings you can share?
Yeah, it's the whole the shift to work from home revealed a pretty big technology gap, right, when it comes to just work in general, right? And so to understand this better, we commissioned a study just to see, okay, what are people thinking and how do they operate, right? So, and if we found out that the 94% of the survey respondents said that most of our digital transformation efforts, they span most or all of the company, meaning boiling the ocean is the de facto, like the default route, and that kind of that's sort of a problem because these companies are huge. They're enormous. They span countries and continents, and it's you can't install a brand new process and hope that it's gonna one-click process gonna work across the entire company. So that kind of helped us understand how do we you know, how are they going about the good ones, the successful companies, the innovative companies. The way they're going about digitizing their work is they're picking a process, a workflow, they digitize that, scale that up across the entire company, and then go to the next one, right? So, and 78% of the respondents said that that approach has showed tremendous results, what we call op specific digital transformation. So our goal is to help these champions become successful, people who embrace the op specific approach. We're big fans of those champions. Usually they are part of the operations teams, or they're part of bringing new tech into the company. And Plutoshift is well positioned to serve these companies in the post-COVID world.
That's very interesting. I mean, so I'm taking from that you see a change of attitude to technology, cloud adoption, and AI in industrial environments, and you are able to demonstrate value early on. But you were commenting about this deployment, especially at multi-plant, because I'm curious how you roll it out in these multi-plant environments, especially in a company like, for example, PepsiCo or Henkel, where plant managers, they have substantial autonomy about what they adopt or not. How do you manage that?
Yeah, no, one of the key issues to identify here is, for a young company, pilot purgatory, it's very common across the enterprise, right? Meaning the endless goal to just do more and more pilot projects. And as a company at our stage, is not the best position to be in, right? It's like the purgatory is like being in Dante's Divine Comedy, except that there's no paradise in the end. It's terrible throughout. So what we decided is that we obviously, when we first commercialized it, we said, okay, anybody who wants to try it out, we are more than happy to work. But now we have gotten very disciplined around, what kind of customers do we want to work with, and really, where is the real need? Where is this a business need that's driving this pilot, or is it something where people are doing pilots for the sake of doing pilots? So it's very important to bifurcate the two types of customers, and then obviously really focus hard on making the customer successful. So it's a combination of discipline coupled with strong qualification criteria to make sure that the customers that you do onboard, and they're successful with your product, and they spread the good word. So that's how we create success templates that can scale up within a company. Meaning you deploy at a plant, it becomes successful, but a one-pager is only a start. Meaning, how did they become successful? Like, what did they do? How did they install it? How did they use it? How did they, is it once a day? Is it 5 times a day? So basically kind of creating that success template to scale across the entire company, and along the way, getting multiple stakeholders to buy in, like starting all the way from operator, operations manager, all the way up to VP and C level, to make sure that them embracing the tool is first and foremost. Meaning that's the most important thing that drives success. Obviously, we are here to enable that. The tool is just a part of it, but really the people have to embrace that way of working to drive the value.
Yeah, I think that we exchanged in the past about scary stories about pilot deployments, and we
Yes.
Play a game about how let's name different projects, and
Right.
and I wrote an article about purgatory pilots based on those conversations. So I enjoyed that very much. I was thinking that I should be writing another article about capex versus opex. I think that we discussed about that recently. And could you explain the difference for us when it comes to how companies treat an enterprise solution like Plutoshift, and how you manage those conversations? Because especially industrial environments, they are very comfortable with capex investments because they have a strong process around that. But the opex side it's something that they are not used to do, especially with solutions that are like Plutoshift. Can you comment?
Yeah, no, it's a great topic, and it's something that I feel like it doesn't get enough attention in cloud or software. And Albert, you and I, we have discussed it, and we had a deep discussion about this. But really, for starters, capex or capital expenditures, they're purchases made by companies to be used over long term, right? And it's usually for fixed assets like equipment or vehicles or manufacturing plants. Whereas opex or operating expenses, they're day-to-day expenses to keep the business operational, right? It could be salaries, paying the electricity bills, travel, and so on. The difference is opex is part of P&L, meaning it just shows up, whereas capex is long term. It's on your balance sheet, but it's not part of your P&L. So the key defining feature of capex is that these purchases benefit the company for longer than 1 year, right? And that's where these discussions come up in the software world, is that initially for pilots or short-term engagements, they don't have to bother. It's fine. People, they're fine with it. But as they get serious about getting a new piece of tech into the bloodstream of the company, that's when they start thinking about, okay, what's the best way to structure this? Because obviously, as you know, capex has tax benefits, it depreciates over time, and more than anything, it shows a long-term commitment of the company to make an upfront investment. That's a big thing. Like capex means upfront investment, so the companies make it only when they are sure that this is going to be part of the company for the long haul. Let's just go all in, right? So that is how, if the discussion ever comes up, when if somebody running a cloud company and a customer says, hey, we want to discuss capex versus opex, I take that as a good sign, because it shows that the company is considering, how do we make this tech part of our bloodstream? How do we involve them in the long run? And really, it works, because people have done that a lot for software licenses by defining useful life. So it's and obviously 3 years and above is where it becomes relevant. So if you are signing a 3-year deal or a longer deal, capex becomes relevant. But all in all, I think it's at the end of the day, you want to make it easier for your customers to do business with you. So structuring contracts in a way that helps them, I think it's only going to benefit you and the company. So yeah.
Great. So Prateek, I see you in great shape, to you and Plutoshift. Thanks for the great conversation. I'm still impressed that you've written 13 books. So the best of luck if you ever get to having 13 kids. I cannot help you on that. But why don't we plant a tree together? Just name the place. We can do that in Northern California or Southern California. Deal?
100%. I think that's a great idea, and I think we should. I think planting a tree is just it's therapeutic. And I grew up around my grandparents, and my grandpa was a gardener, and he used to involve me in all the garden activities. So definitely, I'm all in. Let's plant a tree together, and 13 kids. I'll talk to my wife, and we'll see how she starts. I don't know, but the thing is, as you said, planting a tree, having a kid, and a book, right? So once I have the 13th kid, I'm on my way to immortality. So I'm all for it.
Good. Thank you very much, Prateek.
First, thanks, Albert. Thanks for having me.